NULLSET open. Log entry. Death is the first step. You were told you were dropping into Tau Ceti IV to secure high-value salvage. They call you runners. Glorified immortal mercenaries risking permanent brain fry for corporate scraps. But as Season 1 wraps up and the databanks fill, those priority contracts we've been bleeding for revealed the real story. You didn't just find old colony garbage out there. You found a mass grave, a biological weapon that rewrites reality, and 6 corporate empires ready to slit each other's throats for a piece of it. If you're just waking up from a consciousness transfer due to a failed run, pay attention. This is everything you've uncovered. Let's start with your employers. 6 factions holding the strings, each presenting themselves as a friendly neighborhood corporate benefactor. Thanks to the priority contracts, we now know exactly how twisted their actual agendas are. CyberAcme systems. They control the comms arrays and utility networks. Their contracts had us fixing FTL towers and hunting down rogue UESC data. They play the role of the clean, pragmatic utility jack, but they're deeply terrified of what's hiding in the network. NULLSET, the sustain and shield folks. They look like medical saviors, but their priority contracts revealed a darker fixation. They are obsessed with understanding and harvesting the planet's bizarre biological outbreaks. Traxxas. High-tier weapons, deep economic pockets, and zero morals. Traxxas contracts sent us deep into the high-risk zones to pull out hyper-advanced tech. They don't care about the history. They want the firepower. MIDA. The agitators. If a contract involved sabotaging an antenna, disrupting a secure extraction, or blowing up another faction's hard work, MIDA paid the bill. They want chaos, because chaos breaks the corporate monopoly. Sakaguchi Genetics. The recovery net. When everything goes sideways, Sakaguchi is there to patch up the meat. But tracking their parasiticism quest chain proved they aren't trying to cure the planet. They're trying to see if human DNA can adapt to it. And Arachne. A straight-up corporate death cult. While others want data or salvage, Arachne wanted body counts. Their priority contracts demanded the elimination of downed runners and high-traffic meat grinders. They feed on the cycle of violence and seek to push the limits of human consciousness. Right now, these factions are locked in an uneasy Cold War, but the cracks are forming. The biggest fault line is between NULLSET and Sakaguchi. Both are fighting over the biological anomalies of Tau Ceti IV, but while NULLSET wants to isolate and exploit it as a static product, Sakaguchi wants to integrate it. Sakaguchi is also at odds with CyberAcme, who seek alternatives to their dependence on Sakaguchi's weave worms. If CyberAcme can manufacture their own runner hardware, they've got all the software protocols they need to fund runner operations entirely. Meanwhile, Traxxas is actively building an army using the high-tier ordnance we extracted for them, and MIDA is systematically planting the seeds to blow those armories sky high. Arachne is just waiting in the wings, intentionally orchestrating proxy conflicts between the others to maximize the slaughter and push runner tech beyond its limits. They are using you to stock their war chests, but Nightfall is coming, and when it arrives, the corporate peace is going to shatter. What exactly have you discovered so far, Runner? For starters, the people of Seoul are starving for information about the Marathon mission. The UESC claim there's nothing amiss, but the priority contracts tell a far more disturbing story. You've learned about the history of Sol, the effort to colonize Mars, the burgeoning conflict between Earth and their Martian counterparts, and the plan to colonize a faraway solar system on a planet that would give humans the greatest chance at multi-stellar survival. The project's inception and construction began in the late 2300s, and, for a time, the plan was successfully executed. However, centuries later, after these colonists of New Cascadia arrived in Tau Ceti, communications with Sol were lost for decades. Finally, after receiving a distress signal from the colonists in 2888, a message that was time-stamped back in 2794 and took nearly 100 years to travel from Tau Ceti to Sol, the UESC, along with several corporate partners, set out for Tau Ceti IV to investigate. Nothing could prepare them for what they would find when they arrived in the Tau Ceti system several years later in 2893. The colony was gone. Though there were traces of their presence, the primary question on everyone's mind was, what happened to the colony? As we learned more from our runs on the planet's surface, the colonists didn't all die instantly in the invasion from the alien race that had occurred nearly a full century prior. They retreated into localized reinforced bunker networks, like the perimeter, and they kept trying to build a life in the ashes. For decades after the attack, the remnants of New Cascadia fought a quiet war for survival. But they weren't fighting aliens anymore. They were fighting starvation. And that's when the true nightmare caught up to them. The primary culprit? The novel contagion. Scientifically logged as Telomyces mosaica, the mosaic-tipped fungus. Thanks to the audio logs you pulled for Nucleoric's AI Gaius, the colonists suspected something far beyond a space flu. It started in the colony's remaining algae ponds and protein cultivation tanks during that desperate post-invasion era. When scientists like Dr. Clarissa Song tried to study it, the fungus broke the rules of physics. 1 week, it congealed into a non-Newtonian fluid. The next week, it caused catastrophic software errors in the computers analyzing it. The week after that, the sample spontaneously combusted. Eventually, the contagion was transferring genetic material across completely unrelated species at an impossible rate. And the terrifying conclusion Gaius has reached? The fungus isn't blindly infecting humans. It's actively, rapidly mutating to specifically target human biology. It has a guiding intelligence. The colony AI Gabriel tried to maintain order, but Dr. Song's records showed residents suffering from false memories, religious euphoria, and a persistent, terrifying desire for self-osteotomy, a medical term for people wanting to saw their own bones out. The colonists didn't simply die out from the fallout. They changed. We know this because of Dr. Song, whose logs don't stop in 2794, the timestamp of the distress signal. They keep going, all the way into 2812. Which brings us to the heart of the nightmare, the absolute epicenter of Tau Ceti IV's unraveling, the Anomaly. When Dr. Song was tracking the Telomyces mosaica mutating the colony's algae ponds, she wasn't just looking at a freak space mold. She was looking at the first symptom. The fungus was a biological scouting party, a network spreading through the soil, rapidly rewriting local DNA to prepare the planet for what was waking up underneath. For 15 years, that biological fuse burned quietly. Then came December 21st, 2827. The ground in Dire Marsh literally tore itself open, exposing a reality-shattering cosmic fissure. Thanks to a recovered visual archive from that exact day, we know the colonists didn't just find it, they were consumed by it. The log captures a surveyor approaching the raw, radiating light of the tear. The moment they touch it, physics breaks. Their physical form violently unravels on camera, their flesh expanding and mutating into a floating, unrecognizable biomass. This was the birth of the Anomaly, and the colony, already starving, was forced to watch reality dissolve. President Luca Caruso immediately declared an emergency. The logs show a society plunging into mass psychosis. They tried to send subterranean drones down into the crack, and the drones instantly exploded. They sent human search teams, but the Rangers had to be pumped full of heavy anti-hallucinogens just to block out the literal, audible whispers bleeding out of the dirt. Time itself began to warp. A UESC officer named Diaz wandered too close to the fissure. A rescue team pulled him out later that same day. But inside the pocket of the Anomaly, decades had passed. His cybernetic implants were completely decayed. His body had aged a lifetime in a matter of hours. They knew the end was here. Which brings us to the final, chilling colonial transmission recorded before New Cascadia went completely silent. The Anomaly didn't inherit an empty planet. It swallowed the people who built it. And the contagion we're fighting through right now, that's just the leftover fingerprints of whatever took them. As you continue your journey across the stars, the corporations are loading their guns. The planet is waking up, and the Anomaly is widening its fissures by the day. CyberAcme is coming to collect on your debt. Enjoy the premium gear while you have it, because the next time you drop down back on the surface, Tau Ceti IV is going to hit back much harder than anything you've experienced so far. NULLSET closed.